All right, so you're thinking about ditching the 9 to 5, right? Trading it all in for a little piece of Thai paradise.
Sun, sand, incredible food.
Who wouldn't be tempted, right?
Yeah.
But before we start packing our bags, I think we need to talk about the elephant in the room. Buying property in Thailand as a foreigner. It's not as straightforward as some people might think.
Not at all.
But luckily, we've got you covered on this deep dive. We're going to break down all the rules, all the opportunities, and maybe even uncover a few surprises along the way.
Yeah, there are definitely a few things people don't expect.
So to kick things off, let's address the big question. Can foreigners even own land in Thailand? I mean, I've seen all sorts of conflicting information out there.
Yeah, man, there are definitely some myths floating around out there. The simple answer is no. Foreigners cannot directly own land under Thai law.
Okay, so no sprawling estate overlooking the Gulf of Thailand.
Well, not so fast. Not necessarily. There are some legal workarounds that allow foreigners to gain control of the land and essentially own property in Thailand.
Okay, so there's a loophole.
Exactly. You just need a little bit of strategy.
Right, I'm all ears. What are these so-called workarounds?
Well, there are a few different ways foreigners can secure a little slice of Thai paradise, and each one has its own pros and cons depending on your goals and how much risk you're comfortable with.
Okay, let's break those down. What's the simplest route for someone who wants to own property in Thailand without getting tangled up in a bunch of legal red tape?
Well, if you're looking for the easiest way, buying a condo is probably your best bet. It's the most straightforward way to own a property in Thailand.
Okay, but you say a property. What do you mean by that?
So the Condominium Act in Thailand, it allows foreigners to directly own condo units.
Okay.
But there is a catch. You can only own up to 49% of the total unit space in any given condo building.
So I can own a condo in Thailand, but it's more like I'm sharing ownership with Thai nationals.
Yeah, precisely. And it's designed to make sure that Thai nationals maintain control of the land and property. But for a lot of people owning a condo, even within that 49% quota, it's a pretty direct and hassle-free way to enter the market.
That makes sense. But I imagine in popular tourist destinations that 49% is probably maxed out, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
In places like Phuket or Pattaya, or even in certain areas of Bangkok, finding a condo within that 49% limit, it can be really tough. You might have to look at a different area or maybe study for a smaller unit.
So it's a balancing act, location versus ownership restrictions. Are there any rules around how foreigners can purchase a condo? Like, I can't just wire over the money from my bank account, right?
Yeah, you're on the right track there.
Mm.
One of the key requirements foreign buyers need to bring the money in from abroad using foreign currency.
Got it.
And then that money has to be converted to Thai baht, and then the bank will issue a confirmation to the land department. It's all about transparency, making sure everything's above board.
So a paper trail proving the money came from outside of Thailand. Makes sense. So we've talked about condos, which seem like a good option for some people. But what about those who are looking for something a little bigger, like a villa or even a plot of land? Is that even an option for foreigners?
It definitely gets a bit more complicated.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not impossible. For people who are dreaming a bit bigger, setting up a Thai limited company, that's often the route they go.
Okay, so now we're venturing into the more complex stuff. How does this company setup actually work?
So basically, you're creating a business partnership with Thailand itself. See, Thai law states that any company that owns land, it needs to have at least 51% ownership by Thai nationals.
So I need to find some Thai partners who own the majority of the company, which in turn owns the property that I'm interested in.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's where it gets a little tricky because you need to be really careful about who you choose as your Thai partners. There have been cases of foreigners using nominee shareholders. So that's Thai individuals who basically hold shares on paper, but they don't actually have any real control over the company.
And I'm assuming that can lead to some problems.
Yeah, it's a really risky move.
Yeah.
Legally, it's a gray area, and if it's discovered, it could lead to serious legal issues. You could even lose your investment. So it's really important to work with a good lawyer and make sure that your company is set up correctly and in line with Thai law.
Okay, so finding trustworthy Thai partners is crucial in this situation.
Yep.
Let's say I've done that and we've set up this company. Does that give me the freedom to buy any type of property I want?
Well, not exactly. Even though the company structure is a common way for investors to get their hands on larger properties, like villas and land, there might still be restrictions depending on what you want to use the land for. It's always best to talk to a legal expert, someone who specializes in Thai property law, just to be sure.
Right. So condos are a simpler option. Companies are good for those who want more space and control. Are there any other options available for foreigners?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Another popular choice, especially for people who are looking for a more straightforward option, that's entering into a leasehold agreement.
Okay, so this is like a long-term rental agreement.
Pretty much. In Thailand, foreigners can lease land for a maximum 30 years. And sometimes those leases are renewable. So you've got a pretty good chunk of time.
So I'm essentially renting the land. But what about any buildings that are already on that land, or if I want to build something? Can I own that as a foreigner?
That's where things get a little interesting. Even though you can't own the land itself, you can actually own the building that you build on leased land.
So I could build my dream beach house on leased land, and I would own the house, but not the land it sits on.
Yeah, you absolutely could. But there's something important to think about. What happens at the end of the lease term?
Oh, I bet there's a catch.
Yeah, it can get really complicated because it all depends on the terms of your agreement with the landowner. Sometimes the lease can be renewed or the owner might buy the building from you, but you really need to have all of that figured out before you sign anything.
So it's not just about the initial 30 years. I need to think about what happens after that as well. What if I want to move back home before the 30 years is up? Can I sell the lease and the building to another foreigner?
Yeah, you can. And people do that all the time. But it's important to keep in mind that the value of the leasehold in the building is probably going to go down over time. The closer you get to the end of the lease, the less attractive it becomes to potential buyers.
So it's not necessarily going to go up in value, like a freehold property might.
Right. It's more about having a place to enjoy for a longer period of time, rather than seeing it purely as a financial investment.
So we've talked about condos, companies, and leaseholds. Are there any other options that are maybe a little less traditional?
Believe it or not, there are a couple more, although these are less common, and they usually require some specialist legal advice. One of them is called a usufruct agreement.
Usufruct agreement. Okay, that's a new one. What is it?
So basically, it's like borrowing the benefits of somebody else's land without actually owning the land itself. It gives you the right to use and profit from the land, but the actual ownership stays with the landowner.
So I get all the perks without actually owning it.
Exactly. You could use the land for farming, build something on it, even rent it out if there are already buildings there. The landowner still owns it, but you get to enjoy all the benefits.
Okay, that's pretty unique. What was that other option you mentioned?
The other one, this is even more niche.
Yeah.
It's called the right of superficies.
Okay, you're really testing my vocabulary today. What does that one mean?
Okay, so imagine this. You want to build your dream beachfront villa, right?
Of course.
But you don't want to shell out for the expensive land underneath.
Right.
The right of superficies allows you to own the building that's on a piece of land, even though you don't own the land itself.
So I could build my dream villa on someone else's beachfront property and legally own the villa, even though I don't own the beach.
Exactly.
Hmm.
It can be really useful for investors who want to develop property, but they don't want to buy the land, because that can be really expensive.
Wow, these are some creative legal loopholes. I can see how someone would get lost trying to figure this all out by themselves.
Oh, definitely. Navigating Thai property law. It can feel like you're trying to hack your way through a jungle.
Yeah.
But if you've got the right guide, it's definitely doable.
Yeah, it sounds like having expert advice is essential here. But there's more to think about than just the ownership structure, right? We need to talk about taxes, visas. The list goes on.
Yeah, absolutely. We've only just scratched the surface. There are a lot of crucial things to consider, like the tax implications, different visa options, and some potential risks that you need to be aware of before you make any decisions.
Okay, well, before we get too far ahead of ourselves and we're all daydreaming about our beachfront villas, let's tackle those essential details. Are you ready to dive into the less glamorous but equally important side of owning property in Thailand?
Let's do it. It's all part of being informed and making smart decisions.
All right, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Okay, so we've talked about some pretty creative ways to essentially own property in Thailand, but now it's time to face the less glamorous side of things.
Taxes. Yeah, nobody likes talking about taxes.
No, but they're important. It's definitely something you want to understand to avoid those nasty surprises down the road.
You got taxes are often overlooked, but they play a big role in the overall cost of owning property in Thailand.
So let's break it down. What kind of taxes are we talking about here?
Well, right off the bat, you've got transfer fees. When you purchase a property,
Okay.
this is usually around 2% of the registered value of the property.
Okay, so 2% up front. What else?
Then you've got stamp duty, which is usually 0.5% of the registered sale value.
Okay.
But it's not always applicable. Like, it only kicks in if the property is being sold within 5 years of being purchased.
Got it. So those are one-time taxes at the point of purchase.
Anything else?
Yeah, you've also got ongoing taxes, like the annual property tax. It's called the land and building tax, and it's based on the assessed value of your property.
All right, so pretty similar to property taxes in other countries. Are there any taxes that are unique to Thailand? Something that might catch a foreign buyer off guard? Absolutely, yeah. One that often catches people out is withholding tax. It comes into play when you sell your property.
Okay.
So for companies, it's calculated as 1% of either the appraised value or the selling price, whichever is higher. For individuals, it's a little bit more complex.
Oh.
It's based on a progressive scale, and that depends on your income bracket.
Okay. I'm starting to think I need a spreadsheet and a finance degree to figure all of this out.
Yeah, this is where it gets a little complicated. This is why having a good tax advisor is so important. Someone who knows Thai property law. They can guide you through everything, make sure you're paying the right amount, and that you're following all the rules. It's an investment that will probably save you money in the long run.
Yeah, for sure. Not a DIY situation.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered the taxes, but there's another big question that we need to address, visas. A lot of people seem to think that buying a property in Thailand automatically gives them the right to live there.
Right. Yeah, that's a pretty big misconception. It's not that simple. Owning property might help your visa application, but it's definitely not a guaranteed ticket to living in Thailand.
So I could buy a beautiful beachfront villa in Phuket, but still not be able to live there.
Yeah, that's definitely possible. You still need to go through the proper visa application process, and you have to meet the requirements for the specific type of visa you're applying for.
So let's talk about those visa options.
Mhm.
What are the most common routes for someone who wants to spend a significant amount of time in Thailand? Maybe even make it their permanent home.
Well, for long-term stays, the Thailand Elite visa is pretty popular.
Okay.
It offers different options, ranging from 5 to 20 years, and there are all sorts of perks and privileges that come with it.
That sounds pretty fancy, but I'm guessing it's probably pretty extensive.
Yeah, it is. The membership fees can be quite high. Depending on the package you go for, it could cost you a couple of million baht.
Okay, so not exactly an option for everyone. What about if you're not Will Elite? Are there any more affordable options?
Yeah, of course. The retirement visa is another popular choice.
Retirement visa sounds nice. What do you need for that one?
Well, it's designed for people over 50, and you have to be able to show a certain level of income or savings. Basically, you need to be able to support yourself without working.
Enjoying those golden years in paradise. What about if someone's younger and falls in love with Thailand and wants to settle down with a Thai partner? What options are there for them?
Well, in that case, there's the marriage visa,
Okay.
but you have to be legally married to a Thai national. And you'll need to meet some financial requirements as well, basically proving you can support your spouse.
It seems like all these visas have their own specific requirements and processes. Is it a difficult process to navigate?
It can be. Each visa has its own rules about how long you can stay, whether you're allowed to work, and a whole bunch of other stuff. It's important to do your research.
So before you fall in love with a property, you need to make sure you can actually get a visa to live there long term.
Exactly. Don't get ahead of yourself. The visa requirements are crucial, and it's better to get all that sorted out sooner rather than later.
We've covered the legal structures, the taxes, the visa situation. Is there anything else that potential buyers should be aware of before they jump in?
Well, we've talked about a lot of the important stuff, but there's one more crucial thing we need to discuss. It's time for a reality check.
Okay, hit me with it. What are the risks of buying property in Thailand?
Well, no investment is completely risk-free, especially in a foreign country.
Yeah.
One of the biggest risks is market volatility.
Okay, so my investment might not be as safe as I think. What kind of things could affect property values in Thailand?
Oh, all sorts of things. The economy, global events, even political changes can all have an impact.
Right.
For example, back in 2020 when the pandemic hit, the Thai property market took a big hit.
Makes sense. So I need to be aware of the bigger picture, not just the property itself. What other risks are there?
Another important thing to consider is currency fluctuation. The value of the Thai baht. It can go up and down against your home currency,
Right.
and that can have a big impact on your purchasing power and the value of your investment.
Yeah, even if the property value stays the same in Thai baht, I could still lose money if the exchange rate changes. It's a gamble.
Exactly. And then there's the legal side of things. Trying to navigate Thai property law on your own. It's a recipe for disaster.
Okay, so a lawyer is a must.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
essential to have someone on your side who knows the ins and outs of the legal system to protect your interests and make sure everything is done properly.
It sounds like due diligence is really important when it comes to investing in property in Thailand.
Yeah, don't cut corners. Hiring a good lawyer, a financial advisor, Maybe even a real estate consultant who specializes in the Thai market. It's definitely worth the investment.
Okay, so we've talked about legal structures, taxes, visas, and even the risks. It's definitely more complex than I thought it would be.
It is. It's a big decision that requires a lot of planning. But if you do your research and you're careful, it can be a really rewarding experience.
All right, any final words of advice before we wrap up this part of our deep dive?
I think the most important thing is to be informed. Do your research, find good advisors, and don't be afraid to ask questions. The more you know, the smoother the process will be.
Well said. Okay, so we've covered a lot of the practical stuff, but I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier. We've been focusing on the legal and financial aspects, but there's another really important dimension that we can't ignore, and that's the cultural side of owning property in Thailand.
Yeah, absolutely. Buying a property in Thailand, it's more than just a transaction. It's about immersing yourself in a new culture and a new way of life.
Exactly. It's about becoming a part of the community and respecting the customs and traditions of a culture that's probably very different from what a lot of Westerners are used to. And that's a whole other conversation in itself. So for now, we've laid a solid foundation with the legalities and the financial aspects. But next time, we're going to shift gears and explore the cultural side of owning property in Thailand. What do you say? Ready to delve into the heart and soul of Thai life?
Absolutely. I'm excited to talk about that. Let's dive in.
So we've spent a lot of time talking about the nuts and bolts of buying property in Thailand, but I think it's time to take a step back and think about what it's actually like to live there, as a foreign property owner.
Right. It's one thing to sign the papers. It's a whole other thing to actually immerse yourself in a new culture, a whole new way of life.
Exactly. We've covered the mechanics of buying property, but what about the experience of actually owning a piece of Thailand? The emotional side, the cultural side. It's a big adjustment. And I think some people might not realize how important it is to really become a part of Thai society.
Yeah, I agree. It's not just about having a vacation home. It's about becoming part of the community, understanding and respecting a culture that's very different from what a lot of Westerners are used to.
So how do you even begin to understand those nuances? Thailand has such a rich and complex culture. It can be a little overwhelming, to be honest.
It can be, but it's also a really rewarding experience.
Yeah.
I think it all starts with respect. Respect for Thai customs, for traditions, for the way things are done.
Can you give me some examples? What are some of the things that might surprise someone coming to live in Thailand?
One of the key things to understand is the concept of losing face. It's all about maintaining harmony, avoiding confrontation, and making sure everyone keeps their dignity.
So something like raising your voice in public or criticizing someone directly, that would be a big no-no.
Exactly. Those actions could cause someone to lose face, which can really damage relationships. It's really important to be mindful of these things and approach interactions with a lot of humility and politeness.
That makes sense. Being considerate of others, putting harmony first. What about religion? I know Thailand is predominantly Buddhist. How does that play a role in everyday life?
Buddhism is a huge part of Thai culture. You see temples everywhere, and a lot of Thais incorporate Buddhist practices and rituals into their daily routines. Even if you're not Buddhist yourself, it's really important to show respect for those beliefs.
So things like dressing appropriately when visiting temples, being aware of religious symbols, and just generally avoiding anything that could be seen as disrespectful.
Exactly. It's about being aware and respectful of the culture and the religion. Another thing that often surprises foreigners is the importance of social hierarchies in Thailand. Age and status are really important, and it's customary to show respect to elders and people in positions of authority.
So using polite language, being mindful of your body language, not being overly familiar with people you don't know well.
Yeah, exactly. These things might seem small,
Yeah.
but they can make a big difference in how you're perceived and how well you fit in.
I imagine that learning the language would be a big help, not just for practical reasons, but also as a way of showing respect and a willingness to engage with the culture.
Absolutely. Even knowing a few basic Thai phrases can go a long way. Thais really appreciate it when they see you making an effort.
It would make life a lot easier, too. Ordering food, asking for directions. But it's more than that. It's about connecting with people on a deeper level.
Exactly. Language is a bridge. It helps you understand each other better. But even beyond language and customs, there are so many ways to immerse yourself in Thai culture.
Like what? Give me some ideas. I'm ready to jump in.
Well, one of the best ways to connect with the community is to participate in local festivals. Thailand has so many amazing festivals throughout the year, each one with its own unique traditions. It's a great way to experience the color and the energy of Thai culture.
That sounds incredible. What about the food? I've heard amazing things about Thai cuisine.
Oh, the food is incredible. Exploring Thai cuisine is a must, And don't be afraid to go beyond the touristy restaurants. Try the street food. Maybe even take a cooking class to learn how to make some of the dishes yourself.
I love that idea. It's about going deeper than the surface level tourist experience and really experiencing the heart of Thai culture. It seems like what you're saying is that owning property in Thailand is about more than just having a place to stay. It's about embracing a whole new way of life.
Exactly. It's about opening yourself up to new experiences, new friendships, and a new way of seeing the world. It's a journey of self-discovery as much as it is about discovering a new place.
This deep dive has been so insightful. We've gone from the nitty-gritty details of legal contracts to the broader picture of cultural integration. I think we've given our listeners everything they need to know to make a smart decision about buying property in Thailand.
We've covered a lot of ground, but it all boils down to this. Owning property abroad is a big decision. You need to understand both the practical side and the cultural side if you want to have a truly successful and rewarding experience.
To all our listeners out there dreaming of their own little piece of Thai paradise, I hope this deep dive has given you some valuable insights and maybe even inspired you to take the leap.
Remember, buying a property is just the beginning. It's the start of a chapter filled with new opportunities for growth and connection and adventure. Embrace the challenges, enjoy the rewards, and most importantly, enjoy the journey.
Well said. Until next time, happy exploring.